A couple of years ago, I thought building wealth was about finding the perfect investment, the perfect stock, the perfect business, the perfect deal. But after reaching a net worth of 100K, I realized that wealth building is actually much less complicated than most people think. The truth is that most of the progress I made came from following a handful of very simple and boring rules over and over again. None of them are really exciting, none of them are revolutionary, but they work. So in this video, I will share the 5 money rules that helped me build my first 6 figures. The first rule is simple. Always make sure that you make more than you spend. This is the foundation of everything. Our entire economy is built around the idea of generating a surplus. Companies earn more than they spend. Investors earn more than they spend. And your personal finances should work exactly the same way. No matter what happens, I always try to end the month with money left over. For example, my personal goal is to save and invest around 1,000 euros per month. Some months I spend more than I expected. Life happens. But even during those months, I try to maintain a positive cash flow. Because the moment you consistently spend more than you earn, wealth building becomes impossible. Looking back, this is probably the biggest reason I was able to reach 6 figures in net worth relatively early. When my income increased, I tried to increase my investments instead of my lifestyle. And while that sounds pretty boring, it compounds over time. Every euro you don't spend becomes capital, and capital is ultimately what buys freedom. Rule number 2 is never take on consumer debt. This is one of the biggest financial mistakes I see people make. Financing electronics, financing furniture, financing things that lose value every single year. I only believe in taking on debt when there's a clear financial reason behind it. For example, a rental property that generates income, or a business investment. But financing consumption usually means paying interest on something that is becoming less valuable every month. And that has to be repaid, but without going into new debt. Wealth is usually built by owning assets, not by financing liabilities. Now, student debt is a little different. I can really speak from my personal experience because here in Germany, university is almost free compared to many other countries. Over here, student loans are capped and there's no interest attached to them. From what I've heard, community college can be a very effective option in the States because it allows people to gain qualifications without taking an enormous amount of debt. But regardless of where you live, I think the principle remains the same. Borrow money to increase your future earning power, not to increase your current lifestyle. The third rule is to invest in your career. This is probably the most underrated investment of them all. People spend hours researching stocks, but they spend almost no time thinking about their earning potential. The reality is that you get paid based on the value of the problems you solve. The more valuable your skills become, the more money you can earn. That is why I've always viewed my career like an asset. I switched industries, I learned new skills, I moved cities. I took opportunities that helped me increase my future earning potential. You should treat your career like a video game. Keep leveling up, keep improving your skills, keep putting yourself in rooms with people who are ahead of you. Switch jobs after 1 to 2 years if better opportunities arise. Take calculated risks. Your income is usually your biggest wealth building tool in your 20s. The fourth rule is to invest in assets, even if the amount is small. A lot of people think investing only matters once they have a large amount of money. I completely disagree with that. Habit is more important than the amount. Even if it's only 50 euros, even if it's only 100 euros, start building capital because capital creates options. Capital creates freedom, and eventually capital allows you to buy assets that start working for you instead of constantly working for money yourself. For me, that started with stocks. For someone else, it might be a business. For somebody else, it might be real estate. The exact asset matters less than building the habit of ownership. The first investment is always the hardest, not because of the money, because you don't trust the process yet. The first 100 euros feels insignificant. The first 1,000 euros feels insignificant. But over time, those small investments start growing, especially as you increase your saving rate. And then those investments start generating returns. And those returns start generating more returns. That is when compounding becomes visible. Today, most of my net worth sits inside stocks and ETFs. But that only happened because I started investing years ago when the amounts were much smaller. Don't be the guy that is sorry for not buying earlier. Remember, the best investment you ever made is the one you made yesterday. The final rule is the one that changed my thinking the most. Focus on increasing your income rather than obsessing over saving. Of course, saving matters. That is rule number 1. But there's a limit to how much money you can save. There's no real limit to how much money you can earn. This was one of the biggest mindset shifts I have ever had. Currently, my wealth is extraordinary for someone normal my age, but my income isn't yet. And for some time, I've been focused on the wrong things. I focused on spending less, optimizing everything, but eventually I realized that earning an extra 1,000 euros per month changes your life far more than saving an extra 50. That realization completely changed where I put my energy. Don't get me wrong, I still live relatively frugally. I don't buy things I don't need, as should you. But I don't want to build wealth by constantly restricting my life. I would rather focus on becoming more valuable and increasing my earning power. Because in the long run, income creates wealth much faster than extreme frugality ever will. Looking back, none of these rules are complicated. Make more money than you spend, avoid consumer debt, invest in your career, buy assets consistently, focus on income growth. That is pretty much the entire framework I used to build my first 100K with. Looking back, reaching my first 100,000 was much less about luck and much more about following a simple system long enough for the results to show up. And from what I have seen, the people who eventually build serious wealth usually follow the exact same principle for decades. The numbers and leverage possibilities change. The rules usually don't. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.